Trigger warning. This content includes sensitive material related to suicide, trauma, and/or severe mental health concerns.
Again, I am the programs manager for the Arkansas chapter for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. You will hear me say AFSP because American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a mouthful. This is this is a heavy subject when we talk about suicide. One of the things that I will ask, if it gets a little bit much for you, if you need to step out, even if it's just to take a call, I need you to nod. I need you to give me a thumbs up. I need you to do a dance. Whatever you need to do for you to let me know that you're okay. If you have to step out of this room, I will chase you down. If not, I will kick these flip-flops off and I will stop and I will come and get you. If not, I will send Dr. Assadi. He might be a little bit faster than me, but we will come and check on you. Oh, he's good. But we do extend that seriously, because it is a sensitive topic, and sometimes it can be triggering. We don't know what's going on in people's lives or what they've been affected by, so we do stress that because our number one thing is self-care and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, right? In the midst of all this, it's quite a few of us in the room, not too many that I don't mind. If you do have questions in the middle of all this, if you just want to stick your hand up, Dr. Assadi or I will answer the question. If it's something that you're like, Kionti, I don't want to ask that out loud, write it down. It's fine. We'll answer it, afterwards. My card and some of our information is over there on that table because we don't actually have a table out there. So I did bring some other information for you guys to have. Any of the information that we provide to you guys is on our afsp.org website. Any trainings that we provide is free. I cover the entire state of Arkansas. I genuinely mean the entire state of Arkansas. I've been to, in the last 2 months, I've been to 10 different states and I've been to over 20 cities. So I travel a lot for work, whether it's a school, it's an organization. If I need to come and sit on your couch at your house, I do all of the things. So any questions that you have, you're more than welcome to ask me. Dr. Yeah, and pass it up front. Dr. Assadi will take care of it too. Exactly. Business cards over there. Before we even start, we do have a couple events that are coming up here. November the 1st is our Little Rock Out of the Darkness Walk. There's a flyer over there for you to register again. It's on afsp.org website as well. Our Survivors Day event, basically what that is, it's like a conference that we have. So anyone that's been affected by suicide in any type of way, and even if you haven't and you just want more information, we do have one of those coming up November the 21st. That's on a Friday. And that's for like veterans, first responders, military, anything like that. That event is for them. It's on that flyer. Please don't ask me off the top of my head. Doubletree downtown is where we're having that, and it's from 10 to 3. And then there is another one. We normally have the rest of them around the state the Saturday before Thanksgiving, just because we know that's a hard time. So we try to bring those affected together to talk and do all the things, right? Those are Saturday, November the 22nd. Greg Adams, Greg's at Children's, right, Dr. Assadi? Yeah. And that flyer for that is over there as well. But any other information, any events that you guys want to know about, if you want to do an event, if you need me to come to your organization, your school, your daycare, wherever the things, because we do it for elementary, I do all the things. So with all that being said, I'll get started. Remember, thumbs up, nods, dances. Let me know that you're okay. All right. I have to get used to this because I'm clicking on my computer and this up there, so bear with me a little bit while I get my technology things together. Oh, phenomenal. There we go. So just to clarify with this presentation, it is not to serve as a mental health advice for you guys. I'm not a therapist. I used to be an addictions counselor. That is not the same as working in suicide prevention. That was treatment. This is prevention. I'm not a professional where there are doctors and mental health therapists. I am going to school to get my mental health therapist license, though, so that's coming up. But I'm just here to present this as a professional with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, okay? As far as how you guys are responsible for this or how you take care of this in your environment, we do, or your workplaces or your organizations, we do have information if you don't have that to provide so you guys to have in your organization if you don't have anything in place or implement it when it does come to suicide education for your employees or your workplace where you are. So that just gives you some information about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So our mission is to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. We do this by engaging in 5 core strategies. So you can see on here. Oh, there we go. Our research, education, public awareness, outreach and support, and advocacy. We do a lot of advocacy work. We just had our board chair just came back from DC. Anytime we can get in front of legislators to get more funding for any type of prevention awareness, we are going and we do the things, right? So a lot of our research and everything is backed and it's evidence-based, and a lot of our things, or everything we do, we support advocacy. It's really big at AFSP. There we go. So some learning objectives that we're going to go over. Understanding the scope of suicide among the Black and African American population. Understand the racial and systemic factors that impact suicide in Black and African American communities, describing suicide risk and protective factors, describing warning signs. In the warning signs, it just isn't for the Black and African American community. These warning signs that we're going to go over is for any community, any age, it doesn't matter where you work, how much money you make, how rich, how poor, if you got Black and blue polka dots, it does not matter. These warning signs are across the board, so just don't take it as it's just for this one community. This is across the board. Learning how to get help for someone in a suicidal crisis, and also gaining the confidence in talking to someone about suicide. So we take our identity everywhere we go, right? So you walk in a room and it's like, this beautiful lady right here, she has on this screen. I'm going to pick on you too because you're right in front of me, you who I see, right? We see these beautiful ladies. Oh, that color, that maroon looks good on her. That green, it's our identity. Or I introduce myself, I'm Kionti with AFSP. That's part of my identity, right? Oh, she has blonde hair. Next week I might have black hair. I don't know. I like to switch it up. You never know what I might look like when I walk in a room, right? So, but that's part of my identity, right? I have 3 boys. That's part of my identity. One's in the Air Force, one's in the college. I have a 2nd grader. I'm all over the place. Y'all help me out, right? So, but that's part of my identity of who I am. So my identity isn't the same as her identity. What I identify as, you may not, Miss Dr. Margaret might not identify as. We both identify as women, right? We identify with women with blonde hair today, right? But tomorrow it might be something else. So how we identify and how we carry ourselves isn't the same no matter what our race, no matter what our ethnicity, no matter what our job titles are, right? So you have to take that into consideration when you're thinking about suicide. All right, so I'd just like to acknowledge that mental health and suicide can be sensitive to discuss for some of you. So like I said, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you need to step out, I will say this more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, because I want to make you guys know that we take this serious. Self-care, take care of yourself if you need to step out, okay? So factors impacting mental health in the Black community. You have stigma and fear, right? That's surrounding mental health and suicide in these communities. It's very relevant and very, very real, and impacts Black individuals across all ages. And how we understand this is very specific. So in a moment, we'll discuss some of the things we've all heard from about mental health, and that may add to the stigma and shame that surrounds some other topics. So you have barriers to access for mental and physical health care. Some people don't have insurance. Some people might not even have transportation, right, to get to where they're going. I heard a radio, and I hardly ever listen to the radio, and it comes on earlier, and there was an ad that talked about if you don't have transportation, they'll come and pick you up for free and take you there. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever, right? Because think about the people, I might have health insurance, but I don't have a way to get there. Or I get a doctor's appointment, and it's like, how am I going to get there? It's 20 minutes across town. I can't walk, right? Or maybe I had health insurance and I was diagnosed with a mental health illness, but now my insurance is gone. So now I don't have a way to keep myself healthy, right? So having those barriers, regardless of what it is for individuals. So you have, of course, racism and racial trauma, including structural racism in the mental health care field. You have cultural incompetence or racial and cultural bias of clinical professionals. That's that, oh, if I go in there, my doctor's going to be like, whatever, you're just making this up, right? Or I go in there for, I'm not even kidding, he's not my doctor anymore, I love him to death. It's one of those things, I'm like, oh, Dr. Cole, I'm coughing, I think I have the flu. And he's like, oh, girl, here's some, I don't know, something for a broken leg. And I'm like, no, I'm sneezing. I didn't break my leg. I don't need that medication. Just, I might need some Benadryl from over the counter. I don't need I don't know, benzos, whatever the thing is. You know what I mean? Like, you have those doctors that they want to do all the things, but sometimes it's too much. But then you have the ones that's like, I see you got all this stuff going on, and here's something for depression. And it's like, that may not be it, right? So it's having that confidence in your doctor. And I'm one of those, if I am not comfortable with you, I will change a doctor because I need you to understand me, right? And some of that, it's that I walk in a room and automatically it's, oh, you're overreacting, or that's really not what's wrong with you. And that's across the board, right? It's not just for one race or this race or that race. It's across the board for anybody that can happen. And so we stress like making sure you find the doctor that fits you, make sure you find the therapist that fits you. And it's okay if you have to change a couple times, right? It's like my lipstick. I might go through 4 different color lipsticks. I changed this one 3 times today. And I'm like, that clashes with this blue, right? Same thing. You got to change to where it fits you, right? And you're comfortable with that person or whatever that thing is. Yes, okay. All right, so just some of the things that you may heard in the Black community. So we have to be resilient. Having mental health problems mean that you're weak. I think this is across the board too. A lot of people, when it comes to mental health, it's like, oh, you'll be okay. I've had the same issue happen. Just get over it. I dealt with it. Listen, my personal story, I lost my 13-year-old nephew 2 years ago to suicide. I've had someone else that I know lose a nephew. The way we grieved was completely different, right? We grieved happiness. You know what? He lived a great life. He did the things, right? But then on the other side, you're sad because I'm like, he's 13. That was a baby. You know what I mean? Or you lose a spouse, or you lose a friend, or an uncle, auntie, or parent. But people grieve differently. So you can't tell somebody, I know exactly what you're going through. No, you don't. You've had the same loss as me, but you have no idea that I'm over here running circles and swinging on my ceiling fan and mopping my roof, where you might be over there planting flowers, right? So it's definitely different how people deal with the things that they may be going through. And it's not weak. Go get help, right? My help might be sitting on my porch talking to my friend, or my help may be going to go see my therapist, right? So it's different across the board for whoever you are. So depression is a white people thing. Black people don't go to therapy. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Yeah. And I'm not just African American, right? My dad's Native American, full Native American, and German. I'm a bag of Skittles, is what I tell people. We don't even know. My DNA is like this. Now, I was in Kentucky this past weekend. I went to go do the out of the darkness walk with my sister for my nephew who passed away. And my uncle goes, "Oh, did you know also on your great grandma's side they're this and this and that?" And I'm like, "You're just adding to the colors of my Skittles. I can add to my presentation when I tell people about, right?" But it doesn't matter what your race or your ethnicity is. Just because growing up, and I feel like this is across the board too, I tell people I go to an African American Baptist church. I also was raised in the Catholic church on my dad's side of the family. I'm confused, y'all. I don't know what's up, down, left, or right. I'm just like, yep, whatever y'all say, I agree, right? But it's different. So it's not a white or a black or a blue or a purple or Asian or Indian thing, right? It's for anybody. You grow up and suicide wasn't talked about, or mental health was like, oh, Uncle Joe's just crazy. No, now I'm an adult and I'm like, oh, he really was crazy. But it wasn't like, ha ha, crazy. It was like, we really needed to get Uncle Joe some help. Like, he really needed medication or he really needed a therapist, right? But it was like a ha ha thing. Now it's like, oh, that's what's going on, right? And so it's just bringing it to the forefront and getting rid of that stigma and how we talk about it as well, right? Experiencing struggles again. Oh, I dealt with that. This is how I did it. It's okay to be like, I have done it this way. This is what worked for me. Try it and see if it works for you. Or this worked for her. Maybe try that out. I can suggest things all day, but just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for that next person, right? So it's okay to give suggestions. Try this out. Maybe it doesn't work, but we have options, right? So the strength of previous generations gives Black people strength to face the oppression of today. You also have communities that have led social movements to fight injustice and systemic racism. Traditions of alternative health practices have helped communities with limited access to medical care. And the core value of being stronger together can help individuals who experience mental health concerns. We're going to talk about some protective factors here in a moment also. You also have traditional health values, beliefs, and practices that have helped aid in survival of the Black community and through hundreds of years of oppression, slavery, and colonial rule. We're just going to get into a couple of those here in a moment. So suicide is a significant issue that affects individuals, families, and communities worldwide. So we're going to just talk about some of the situations that show how suicide affects those communities at different levels. So things to consider when talking about suicide. Some of this, and I'll be honest with you, so I've been with AFSP now for a little bit over a year. When I had my interview for this position, I told them, I was like, yeah, they was like, how have you been affected by it? And I was like, oh, my nephew committed suicide. The lady very politely corrected me. And she was like, Kionti, we don't say committed, we say died by suicide. Boom, a light went off. I'm like, that makes so much sense. Because when you tell people that don't understand this, that my nephew died by suicide, they're like, oh, he committed. And I'm like, no. And so my thing is like, did he rob a bank? Did he commit a crime? Is he going to go to jail for dying by suicide, right? He didn't rob anybody. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't commit a crime. He died by suicide. That's like when you say, oh, that person has schizophrenia. It's like, no, that is a person with a mental health condition. That is a person with a substance use disorder. Don't define me or anybody else by their condition, right? So it's like, this is a person that's living with this, right? And it just changes your whole perspective. It's not like that negative connotation that we've put on some of the things that people deal with in life. So died by suicide is what you, like in the beginning, you heard me say, right? And again, that was my first time being like, oh my God, I apologize. And she was like, no, people don't know, right? And I still hear people that, that I work with, and they're like, oh my God, it's like a light bulb that go out. It just sounds better, because you get people that look at you like, oh, or it's that negative thought. I'm like, no, it's not negative. Like at this point, yeah, it happened, but let's not be negative about it. So it's just changing the stigma of what people say, right? So when talking about suicide and suicide attempts, we want to avoid referring to a suicide attempt as failed or successful. These words imply judgment, and we don't want people to associate failure or success with suicide. Instead, we encourage the use of phrases such as suicide attempt or death by suicide. When talking about how someone died, we avoid explaining the method that they used to end their life. If mentioned, be very brief and avoid including details, since graphic descriptions can be activating to those who struggle and cause contagion. Talking about suicide in this way can make it easier to have conversations about mental health with family and friends. Someone you know may be more likely to come to you for help if they feel safe talking about their suicidal thoughts. Did you have your hand up? Oh, okay, sorry, I just saw it like out of my eye. But it just gives you a different idea of how to talk about it, right? Because if somebody always has a negative thought, no matter what the condition may be, it's like, I don't want to talk to that person about it, right? Like, I'm not comfortable. Like, you have a negative thought about a feeling that I have, regardless of if it's a substance use. If I made a bad grade on a test, I don't want to talk to my friend or whoever that's like, girl, you dumb. You got an F. I don't want to talk to you. I need you to be like, girl, you got it. Let's study together, right? So it's how you talk about it that makes a difference too, right? Mind you, I have a 4.0, just so we know. So suicide is a complex health issue. So despite the complexity, suicide can be prevented. So just like there are warning signs and risk factors for other health crises like heart attacks and diabetes, we can learn warning signs and risk factors that help us to prevent people from dying by suicide. It is important to note that suicide can be, and very often is, preventable, but if suicide loss occurs, it does not mean that you should have been able to prevent it. So one of the examples that we talk about, and I'll go back before I go to this. So I recently got my certification to become a trainer for ASSIST training. It stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. So we go in and you learn all the warning signs, how to, mind you, we don't treat or diagnose, right? It's just, I know the warning signs, I know how to have the conversation with you, I can create an intervention plan with you, I can create a safety plan, keep you safe from now, and get you to the help that you need, right? Even in those processes, regardless of how much training you have as a doctor, or me in suicide prevention, or whatever your field may be, I can do everything possible that's under my scope, right? I could have passed that person off to a therapist, to a doctor, to whatever. If we do everything, if there was a checkbox, right, a list that we checked off, if we did everything that we could possibly do for a person that's having suicidal thoughts or in a crisis, right, and they still die by suicide, sometimes it just happens. We always tell people, give yourself grace. And 2 years later, my sister, she's still giving herself grace, right? Because it's like, oh, it's my fault, or you have the neighbors down the street. Not your business, right? So it's still giving yourself grace regardless of what that situation is. Give yourself grace. And that's part of that self-care that we talk about, regardless of what it is. I can do everything, whether if I'm at the doctor's office and I'm coughing and something, you know what I mean? You have to give yourself grace in those situations, because sometimes things just happen and they're out of our control, right? So suicide is one of the leading causes of death. So in the U.S., it impacts all individuals, families, and communities. So according to the CDC, more than 49,000 people died by suicide in 2022. I was born and raised in Hot Springs. I think there's 35,000 people in Hot Springs right now. That means my entire city died, right, in 2022. Hot Springs, boom, wiped off the map. 49,000 people in 1 year. Why don't we talk about this, right? There aren't enough of me's, there aren't enough of you's to go around, right, to help with anybody in any type of mental health crisis. There's just not enough of us. So if we lost one whole city, right, off of a map just from suicide, think of how many other people there are in the world that are struggling with this condition, right? That, and not just to put it in perspective. It was somebody else that pointed it out, like, oh, how many people live here? And I was like, whoa, that's my whole town that died in 1 year from suicide. More than my town. It might be, I'm assuming, I think it's about 35. But that's still a lot of people in 1 year. And you don't hear about it. You don't talk about it, right? I had a school district just to call me. It wasn't even a week ago. We had 2 kids in the past 2 months to die in this school district. 2 kids. Nobody knows about it. It's not talked about. I had a parent whose grandchild goes to the high school to call me and was like, can you come? Because they're not doing it. Like, it's not talked about. And I'm like, And I felt bad because I'm like, the school didn't call, right? And people, you don't know what you don't know, right? I didn't know 2 years ago what I know now, right? But you don't know what you don't know. But it's like, how can we make this better? Or what can we do to make it better? Or we're not fixers, right? But to give the information that people need, right? So this makes suicide the 11th leading cause of death across all demographics, race, sex, age, right? So the same year, the number of Black individuals who died by suicide equated to about 10 deaths per day. A lot of people. My grandma had 12 kids, y'all. It's a lot of us. That's 10, right, of my grandma's kids. That's 10 of my aunts and uncles. All of them at that point, right? That's a lot of people per day that's dying by suicide. It isn't in here, but we lose one physician a day to suicide. How many physicians do we have in here? Right. Put it in perspective. So suicide in the Black community. So from 2011 to 2020, the age group with the highest suicide rate in the Black community was 25 to 34. So the suicide rate for Black men is 4.5 times higher than the rate for Black women. The suicide rate for Black women, which they have it in here, so the suicide is one of the leading causes of death for Black females and males ages 10 to 24. But once you pass the age of 25, the statistics for African American women dying by suicide is like 0.0000. Very, very, it's like, they don't even put it in here because it's not really like a number, right? It's very rare. That goes back to the slide we saw earlier about like the resilience, like all the things that you could write a book about, right? And talk about like why that one specific community, their numbers are so low. But the suicide rate among Black youth has been found to be increasing, and it's similar to other racial and ethnic groups of color. So just going over this. So according to the YRB, so that's a youth risk behavior survey, 1 in 10 Black youth attempted suicide in the past year. Nearly 2 in 10 made a suicide plan, and nearly 4 in 10 said they felt hopeless. A lot of kids, right? That's a lot of kids. I have 3 boys. That's, I have an aunt that has 4 boys, right? 4 and 10. And I always use like family or like classroom, just so it puts it in perspective to be like, whoa, like that's a lot. That's almost half, right? So it's a lot. So suicide impacts individuals and communities, right? Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter how much money you make, right? So what do you know about suicide? So now that we have like a general understanding about how suicide impacts communities, we're going to look over some of the contributing factors that go into suicide. So keep in mind that there is no single cause, but rather multiple intersecting factors, right? So we always see from the outside looking in, I always say the straw that broke the camel's back. We might say or see someone, oh, they got a divorce, and then they die by suicide. That's all we see from the outside. We don't know that they got a divorce, now they're empty nesters, their kids moved out, they started using drugs, they lost their job, the tire blew out on the way to work, they tripped on the curb trying to fix the tire, then a truck rode by and splashed, like all these things, right? And I'm just adding, but all these things we see, right? And people wear a mask, right? And I don't just mean makeup, I mean like, I can walk in a room if I'm depressed and nobody would ever even know, right? We wear a mask. So you have to think about all the things that have piled up on these people that have contributed to what they've come to even get to the thoughts of having suicide, right? I have all these things going on in my life and something just triggered me. So now I'm having the thoughts, right? So just, it might have been that one thing, but all in the back of my head, all these other things that have contributed to me to get to this point. It's not just one thing. So most people are conflicted or ambivalent, about wanting to die. So research does show that most people who experience suicidal behaviors are ambivalent about taking their life. So part of them does want to live and part of them wants to end their pain. The thought of ending their life is usually part of their mind's problem-solving process. It's not that the person wants to die or has a preoccupation with morbid ideas. Rather, it's usually that suicide comes to mind as a possible solution to end their suffering. They may think that if they weren't around, it would be better for their family, friends, or colleagues. Some people may feel that their psychological or physical pain or feeling of being trapped won't change, and they may feel overwhelmed with hopelessness. So it's important to remember that millions of people have thoughts of suicide each year, but most do not go on to attempt suicide. Thoughts of suicide don't necessarily lead to suicidal behaviors, but suicidal thoughts always do signal distress that needs support and professional evaluation. So the perspective of a person with suicidal thoughts. So when a person does reach this moment of crisis, thinking becomes constricted, causing a state of intense tunnel vision. So in that moment, the person is unable to consider other options or use their coping skills. They cannot foresee a time when the unbearable pain will end and may become focused on suicide as the only way to end their pain. Thoughts of suicide are often temporary, so research shows and provides clear evidence that in the moment of crisis, time and distance can be life-saving. Time for the intense crisis moment to pass, time for someone to intervene with mental health support and resources, and distance between the individual who is experiencing this painful moment and the method of ending their life. Well, let's talk about who's at risk. So some interacting risk factors and protective factors, which as I talked about, we'll get into that as well. So behind the scenes, there are multiple risk factors that converge to contribute to risk of suicide. These factors may or may not be noticeable and include biological, psychological, social, and environmental factors. So risk factors are important to understand when considering what contributes to someone thinking about suicide. So just like someone may be at risk for heart disease because of high blood pressure or a history of heart disease in the family, some people are at a higher risk for suicide than others. So we have biological factors. So think about serious or chronic health conditions. If a person gets diagnosed with a terminal illness, right? It's like, what else do I have to go on for, right? Chronic pain, right? Serious head injuries. You have people football players, right? Something happens, all I know in my entire life is football. That's my career, that's all I have. I've had 10 concussions, I don't know what the limit is, right? Now I can't play football again. What else do I have to hold on to, right? Whatever those things are. I was in a training a couple weeks ago, I was giving an assist trainer, and I always tell people I get permission to tell their stories when they tell them. I always ask. I had one of the gentlemen in the class that we were doing the assist training for, and he said that his grandfather was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he was like, "This is not going to be the way, y'all aren't going to see me dwindle away," and so he opted to end his own life. But he was like that he got to choose how he wanted to go. So in those situations, it's like that was his choice, right? And so we learn in those trainings that we have, is it your choice? Like, does that person have the right to choose how they want to go, right? And then you have the people on the other end, well, I didn't choose to be alive. I didn't want to be born. I'm like, oh, then we go down the whole rabbit hole of all the things, like, right? So, but some psychological factors. The most frequent mental health conditions that elevate suicide risk are these. So you have clinical depression. Depression is major, right? And that goes into that mask. You may have somebody that's depressed and you have no idea. I've worked with somebody 20 years, don't even know, because they can wear that mask, right? So being aware of that. Bipolar disorder, whether it's depressed or mixed episodes, psychosis, substance misuse, borderline personality disorder, eating disorders, right? Anxiety often accompanies these disorders, right? Being in the LGBT community, right? Those different things. The young lady over here, I was reading her, there you go. I was reading her person. I'm like, oh my gosh, because we do a lot with the LGBT community, right? Being transgender, all of these things. Society, your parents, social media, don't even get me started on that, right? All the things that contribute to these things, which would fall under these, right? And a lot of people don't think about anxiety, but if you have severe anxiety, right? So the large majority of people who die by suicide have a mental health condition contributing to their death. So the reason why this is important for us to talk about in mental health and mental health conditions is that the large majority of people who die by suicide have this condition at the time of their death. So we have to know that these two terms should not be used interchangeably. They are different, but certainly related, and may or may not have been recognized by the person or their loved ones. So 1 in 4 people experience a mental health condition, and most do not go on to die by suicide. So if you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health condition, you are not alone. So while there are many people in the community who experience mental health conditions, what is encouraging is that most of them do not go on to die by suicide. It is a combination of having a mental health condition, the presence of potential contributors, and life stressors that make someone consider taking their life. So in other words, if you or a loved one is diagnosed with or or getting treatment for a mental health condition, this does not mean that they are certain to attempt or die by suicide. So mental health and physical health conditions can play important roles on the path to suicide risk. So I'd actually do an activity with you guys. I'll just kind of talk about just the different mental health and physical health, right? That goes back to the example that I gave you about the football player, right? If I am not physically healthy, and I'll take me, for example, right? I play softball year round. I have 3 boys that keep me on my toes, all the things. But if I am not in a good mental state, right, there is no way that I could come up here and stand in front of y'all to give this presentation, right? We have people that had a lady reach out to me. Her partner died August 11th. She reached out to us August 14th and was like, what do? I want to do all the things. Our executive director, I think, lost a family member, and she was like, for her, she needed that immediate thing. That worked for her. She was like, Kionti, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have AFSP right when it happened. I have other people, again, I'll take my sister. It's been 2 years for her to get going to a community and doing the different events, right? So it takes those steps, right? Some people, it's an immediate thing. I need it right then. Some people, it takes them a little bit longer. But with all that, it's I have to be in a good mental state, right? And that's why even when we train people to give these presentations, one of the questions we ask is, how long ago was your loss, right? Because again, we want you to have that time, because I could stand up. There's no way I could have stood up here in front of y'all 2 years ago and given this presentation and shared my nephew's story, right? I'd probably be on the floor sprawled off. Y'all be pouring water and think I got the Holy Ghost, right? But it's different. It's different for some people. We have another lady that was like, if I don't do this, I don't, girl, get up there. We will step in if we need to. But it's different, and we give the opportunities for that. But you have to be, and whatever the situation is, I cannot help you, him. I can't help if I'm not in a good mental health state. I can't be a good mother if I'm not in a good mental state, right? If I'm not in a good physical state. I can't go around and run bases or wrestle with my big kids if I'm not healthy myself, right? And I don't just mean like physically, like running around in a good athletic. I mean like mentally stable, right? And that goes into, if my mental isn't together, that means my physical isn't together, right? Because they go hand in hand. So social and environmental factors. So we have access to lethal means, right? We have exposure contagion. That's that conversation that we talk about, like in the schools. Like, if one kid does it, is it going to sprinkle around to the other kids? Well, they did it and they're fine. That's a big conversation that we have in the schools, because I've had a school district in the last year that one did it and it just kind of fell like dominoes, right? And it's like, no, we have to figure out what it is, why, when, where, all the things, right? Then you have stressful life events. Again, it might just be, I got a divorce. I lost my job. My dog ran away. My kids hate me. I'm an empty nester. Like, you have all these things that are life stressors. I'm clumsy. Me hitting my toe might be like, oh, Kionti's clumsy. Somebody else, that could be the end of the world, right? So my life stressor might not be your life stressor or his life stressor. They could be, we could have the same, my air quotes, situation, but the way that it affects me will affect somebody else completely different. I might laugh about it. Somebody else would be on the floor again, gyrating Holy Ghost, sad and depressed about it. So you have to think about how one thing affects one person doesn't affect that other person the same way. Social and environmental factors. So you have systemic and structural racism, limited access to resources. We talked about, maybe I have health insurance in the beginning if I do get diagnosed, and then I lose my health insurance. What if I've never had it, right? What if I'm just sitting over here, I know something is wrong with me, I don't want to feel this way, but I don't have anybody to talk to about it, whether it's a stranger on the street or it's, I just like to say Uncle Joe. I don't even know, I don't have an Uncle Joe in real life. But an Uncle Joe to talk to, or Dr. Joe, or whoever it is. I just don't have access to any of that. So I'm sitting here, I'm by myself, and I'll use my veteran community. You have to think about them being in the military. I have this brotherhood or sisterhood. I have this structure that I've had all these years, and now I'm out. And I might still have my brothers or my sisters or the things, but like that connection that you have, or that you've had, that closeness, it's now kind of drifting away, right? That could be a college student. I've had my hopes and dreams. I've spent all these years in college, all these friends, and now I'm an adult, right? Now I got to go to work. I got to do all the things. Those are life stressors when you have something so traumatic to change, right? So you have to take all those. Financial distress. I lost my job. I got demoted, right? I was making all this money, and the economy, Lord Jesus, that's a whole nother rabbit hole to jump into too, right? But financial, right? The money. Cultural stressors, oppressions, discomfort with mental health, the alternative self-harm behaviors that may lead to the lethal outcome. You have to talk about people. Just because someone self-harms doesn't mean that they're thinking about suicide. That just might be like, I like to cut myself, right? Doesn't mean I'm thinking about taking my own life. It just means that this is a sense of relief that I get from doing this. So you have historical factors. There are often things that may be difficult to talk about, as they can be personal, about like a family's history, and include a family's suicide history, mental health conditions, past trauma such as incarceration, slavery, unsafe neighborhoods, and oppression. So recent research has shown that the adverse childhood experiences, if you work in the school district or like work with that, it's ACEs. You'll hear a lot of people use ACEs. They are events in a childhood that can contribute to suicide risk. These are events that can increase the likelihood of difficulties later on in life. So this is just some of the things that they talk about: childhood abuse, previous suicide attempts, any type of loss, whatever that loss may be. And then again, the ACEs that we'll talk about here a little bit more in a minute. There we go. So ACEs, so the adverse childhood experiences, it occurs in a child's life as a result of extremely stressful, frequent, or prolonged body stress response. So it includes experiencing violence, abuse, or neglect, witnessing violence in the home or the community, having a family member attempt or die by suicide. They can also include aspects of the child's environment that can undermine their sense of safety, stability, and bonding, such as growing up in a household with substance use problems, mental health problems, instability due to parental separation, or household members being in jail or prison. I want to say they do this every 2 years, starting in the 6th grade. If I'm wrong and y'all know, correct me, but I feel like they do it in 6th, 8th, and 10th, and 12th grade. So they ask, it's several questions long, but it goes through, like, in the last 30 days, have you seen a friend use marijuana, or do you feel safe at home? How many days have you gone without? So it asks all these questions to give them, and that's how they get the ACEs scores. You guys can look that up online too. So ACEs in the Black community. So people of different races and ethnicities do not experience ACEs equally. So you have 3 in 5 children experience at least one of the ACEs, putting them most at risk out of any other group. So across all race, ethnicities, economic hardship, and the divorce or separation of a parent are the most common ACEs. So for Black children, parental incarceration is the next most common ACEs. I won't read through all of these. You can kind of take a picture of it if you want to read over it. Well, some other impacts. ACEs impacts can lead to lifelong negative outcomes. So you have toxic stresses from the ACE can change brain development and affect how the body responds to stress. So it is linked to chronic health problems, mental health conditions, and substance misuse in adulthood. So just getting into some of the prevention and what it can do to help save lives. So some of the protective factors that I mentioned earlier. So when we talk about preventing suicide, protective factors are things in a person's life that can make them less likely to take their life and lower their risk. So some of the protective factors you have: feeling connected to family, peers, community, your cultural and religious beliefs, like your spirituality, strong racial identity, mental health care. That's a big one too. I have access to the things I need to stay well, right? I have that access. I have great friends. I have great family. Again, I'll go back to me. My grandma had 12 kids. They're large. We're a very, very close family. I tell people, like, growing up, a lot of people didn't have that. I have friends that they would come over to my house and stay the night because they didn't have the cousins or the siblings or whatever to make sure they were fed or made sure they had clothes. I also tell people, one of my protective factors, my mom worked in a prison my entire life. She always told me, you ever get in trouble and you go to jail, you're going to stay there. I like snacks too much, and I don't like people to tell me what to do, so that didn't work for me. So I did everything that I needed to do not to go to jail, right? I couldn't go anywhere anyways because everybody knew Miss Gina. Oh, you're Gina's daughter. You have her whole face. I literally have my mama's whole face. I'm her twin. But that was one of my protective factors. Do not get in trouble, right? Do make your good grades. Do all the things that we hear growing up. But regardless, in some of those situations, I had friends that had parents like that, but they still went this way where I went this way. Or, but you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be. Maybe they didn't have the protective factor from a parent to, like, okay, yeah, do good in school, but you could stay out to midnight in the 9th grade. Like, what are you doing? Go to bed. Like, I'm sleepy now. I'm just kidding. But like, all just the different protective factors that a person may have, right? So we could have grown up in the same neighborhood. You and your friend could have grown up in the same neighborhood. Your parents could have been friends, but I don't know what goes on in your household. You could have had a parent that was an alcoholic. True story, when I became an addictions counselor, I had lunch with my friends and her family on a Sunday after church. Monday morning, I got to work, clocked in, and my friend's dad was sitting sitting in my office. And I'm like, can't be his counselor, right? I know you. I've known you my whole life, right? So it's things you don't even know. Same everything, right? I mean, obviously different parents, but we had the same growing up, same protective factors, but you have no idea what's going on over here. And it's like, oh, let's figure this out. Right? So just having those protective factors, or finding out, because sometimes you may think somebody has it and they don't, right? Social support, cultural cohesion, and the role of family can mitigate the risk of social behaviors. Again, that all goes back to those protective factors, right? Spirituality, religion, and faith can play roles in supporting mental health. Again, I grew up in the 2 different church backgrounds, right? Whether I one church did one thing, one church did the other. I'm like, which situation fits me better for this, right? I'm playing double dutch is what I call it, going back and forth. Oh, this one fits me a little bit better. This one fit. So you got to kind of blend them all together. Telling y'all, I was a bag of Skittles, confused growing up. I'm like, I don't even know what is what. It's been very helpful growing up. It was a protective factor, I promise. But just having that support, a lot of people may not go to church, right? Or they may not have that spiritual background. So that might not be something that they can consider a protective factor. Some people, you're good, some people get shunned from the church, right? So that becomes a risk factor. I don't have that to go to, right? Where other people, it can be a risk factor. So strong racial identity can function as a protective factor. It can provide a sense of belonging and connection to other people as well. So we have, because mental health care is so important in preventing suicide, we're going to focus on the topic for a few minutes. So just getting effective treatment for mental health conditions like depression and anxiety can prevent suicide. So members of the Black community may be uncomfortable with seeking mental health care and for various reasons, including stigma of having a mental health condition, or stigma of just even seeking help in itself, right? So we all have a role in addressing the stigma around mental health. There is a need to shift the narrative and stigma around mental health and to think of it as equal to physical health. So for example, if someone broke their arm, would you stigmatize going to get health care? If I came in here on crutches today, you're going to be like, oh, Kionti broke a leg, haha, that's funny, we can't help her, right? Well, you think about somebody again, crazy Uncle Joe, it's like, he crazy. Somebody need to help him. Who is that somebody going to be, right? You could be the only person that asks Uncle Joe how he's doing. You could be the only person that gives him some type of attention that implies that you care, right? But it's just how we think about certain things and certain situation happens. Oh, they just do drugs. Just do drugs? Oh, they just smoke marijuana? They just, like how severe does something have to be? Like, what is the max that we're like, oh, at this point we should care? Like, where's the line, right? It shouldn't matter what it is. At some point, if they don't have that one person to be like, hey, let's check in, like what's going on, then they just fall through the cracks. So just a few benefits of counseling that we'll talk about. Less anxiety. Again, I won't read all of these. You can kind of look over them. Stress relief is a big one. A lot of people have so much stress, regardless of what it is, right? I might deal with anxiety. My puppy could have ran away. Whatever that is, there are benefits of getting counseling, right? So there are several ways to approach finding a therapist who is culturally competent, and whatever your culture is, right? So this one, of course, talks about the Black culture, like finding one. So consider your needs and your preferences. Do you want a woman? Do you want a man? Do you want an African-American woman or man? Do you want Native American? Do you want, whatever your preference is. I might say all day, oh, I want an African-American therapist, and then I get one, and I'm like, girl, you are out of your mind, right? Then I might say I want a man, and I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to be a woman, right? And then I may go back to him. I will double dutch, y'all. I am not kidding. I will change because I need to feel comfortable with you. And I want you to feel comfortable with me too, because I don't want you to hold back as my therapist because it's like, oh, I don't want to. I am an open book and I am blunt as all get out. So if I can't be that person with you, you're like, hey, Kionti, and I need you to be like, sit down, be quiet, and listen, right? I need that sometimes, right? But if you're one of those that's kind of easing in, you need to be comfortable with me, and I need to be comfortable. And that's in any situation, whether you're my friend, whether you're my therapist, whether you're my doctor, whether I'm giving you this presentation, right? I have to be open, and because it's open dialogue, right? Primary care providers, places of worship and religious communities. So just having that background, asking them, are you trained in this? Are you trained in that? What's your specialty? If I'm going in there because I'm depressed, I don't need a marriage counselor. That's out of your realm, right? So it's also making sure you find the correct type of counselor or the correct kind of doctor. If I break my leg and need an orthopedic surgeon, I'm not going to a neurologist. It don't work like that, right? So I need to make sure that I'm staying in my realm of what I need, right? So finding Black therapists, there's all types of websites that you can go on. You can type in Black therapists. You can type in Native American therapists that specialize in chicken nuggets. I don't know. Whatever you desire, right? But you can look all these things up, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, Google, AI chat, Alexa, whoever you use. they will find it, right? So making mental health a priority can be difficult. Again, you have the limited access to culturally authentic services. You have limited access to preventative medical services. Mistrust in the medical professionals. We talked about that earlier. I might go in for one thing, and you might send me out treated for something that I didn't even come in here for. Maybe I should have came in there for it and didn't know it, but maybe you treat me for something that I really didn't even need to be treated for, right? Concerns about medicalizing depression. Again, one of the videos that we show in another one of my trainings, the lady comes in and you could, like in the video, obviously it's acting, but she's just sad. She's real sad. All the things are wrong, right? Her doctor's like, oh, you look depressed. Here's some medicine. Call me back tomorrow. Well, of course, in the video, she takes her own life. I get you're on a clock, but sometimes you just really got to stop and listen, right? And so it's like we're putting a Band-Aid over something that is way more severe than you just giving me a pill and hoping I show. What if I don't even take it? What if I don't go get the prescription filled, right? And so that's asking, do you have a person that can take you to get this? Do you have a person that can bring you back, right? I always tell people, if you're going to be that person's person, be that person's person, because you might be that person's only person, right? So just being there. Self-care. Oh, sorry, I may not have clicked it that one. There we go. So self-care strategies. My favorite thing, I'll talk about it all day. We'll spend forever on this. But just making sure your mind is good, your body is good, your soul is good, your surroundings are good. If I'm around somebody and all you talk about is negativity, you are not my person. I'm mother, brother, sister, cousin, friend. I can't do it. I am a ray of sunshine. I am happy-go-lucky, and you don't get to rain on my parade. I don't care if it's a parade of ducks. You don't get to rain on it, right? I am like I will be everybody's friend. I cook on Sundays. You're all welcome to come over. We're family now, right? I mean that. We're family. No, but seriously, like just making sure that you're in a good space. Again, I stress all the time, if I'm not in a good space, I can't do my job, because my job is it can be heavy sometimes, right? It can be very, very heavy. So if I'm not in a good state, whether it's my mind, my body, right, I can't be carrying all the bags that I carry around if my ankle's broke, right? So even my physical has to be okay. So build a culture that addresses stigma, assessing resources, and encouraging people to seek help. It's okay to get help. And that's part of it. Destigmatizing, like it is okay to get help. It's okay to ask, right? It's okay to ask that person. And I think one of the things that I don't think we really, we'll get into it here in a minute, but just seeking that help and asking people, like, hey, I see you're kind of off today. Like, how can I help you? What do you need help with, right? So some of the warning signs that we're going to get into that we talked about, again, across the board. So we're going to talk about how a person talks, how they behave, and their mood. So many people who are suicidal talk about ending their lives, whether it's directly or it's indirectly. So you always want to remember each person is different. So while some people might make their intention known and very clear, like saying, oh, I have no reason to live, or that I feel trapped, or I'm hopeless about whatever the situation may be, just actually bringing it to your attention that something's going on with me, right? I'm making you aware. Some might not say anything. Might not give you any signs, might not give you anything. There's always something there, right? But some people are very direct about it. Like right now, kids have dark humor. It's like, oh, nobody loves me. I don't care. I won't be here tomorrow anyways. And it's like, wait, let's address that, right? Or I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm good. We hear that all the time. I'm good. It's whatever. It's like, no. Like, let's figure out why it's so just easy for you to just kind of blow off us asking how you really feel, right? And then some, like I said, some wear a mask. Have a mat, you'll never know, right? It's very discreet, right? It might just be like, oh, I'm tired. I use the example with my friends all the time. Like, I'm tired could be, I travel all the time. I need a nap. I want to sleep in my own bed. I sleep in hotels a lot, right? Or my friend's tired might be like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go to sleep and not ever wake up, right? So when somebody's like, I'm tired, or I'm just okay, we probably want to dig into that, especially if you know that person, right? It might be different if you're talking to a stranger we really don't know. But if you know that person, take some time to like dig in if you know, like trust in your gut, right? So you have a person's behavior that we talk about. Increased use of alcohol. It's not clicking with me, there we go. Increased use of alcohol. Issues with sleep. I might be sleeping way too much. I might not be sleeping at all. So you still have that spectrum of things. It could go either way. acting recklessly, withdrawing from activities, isolating from friends, looking for ways to kill themselves. I'll use my kids for example, like them being older now, it wasn't really anything like we talked about it, but not like with my 7-year-old now, because he's heard other kids say it. It's a conversation I have to have more frequently, not even just because this is my job, but just the access to technology and all the things. I would much rather I be the person that teaches my kids what I want them to know, but because of social media and because of the kid next door and because of all these other contributing things, it's very much a conversation that you have to have now, right? You come home and you say something, I'm like, what? Right? We need to talk about that. Where'd you hear that from? Because not only do I need to know where you hear it from, I need to talk to little Johnny's mama and tell little Johnny mama that little Johnny is talking about these things because she may not know, right? So let's be in that community too. Giving away possessions, abrupt changes in behavior. If you have somebody that you know, and I'll use, again, another story, and someone's antiques, we're just giving away the things that we love. I'm giving away my guitar I've had for my entire life, right? I'm giving away my antique cars. I'm giving away whatever it is. We should probably look into that. Like, what are we doing? Why are you giving these away? Are you just giving them away? Are you selling them? Are we trying to go on eBay and make money? That's one thing. But we're just like, you can take it. I won't ever use it again. Let's talk about that, right? So our moods, depression, impulsivity, humiliation, anxiety, again, that comes up again, irritability. I talk about people that, the happiness, right? I'll use me and my best friend, for example. I'm the, go in the room, hey, everybody, give everybody a hug, right? That's me. If I walk into a room and I'm kind of like shied off, people are going to be like, what's wrong with Kionti? She okay today? She don't feel good? Or my best friend, she's the total opposite. She's quiet. She's real laid back. She's like, hey, y'all. She walks in the room and she's like, what's up? Wrong with her? What is she on today, right? So you could be extremely happy because at that point it's like, I'm so happy. I've already created this plan. I know what I'm going to do. Y'all ain't got to worry about me no more. But on the other end, it's like, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? So you have to think somebody can be extremely happy, which sometimes in those situations signify that they've come up with a plan, or they can be extremely sad. Or I'm just angry all the time. Everything makes me mad. Doesn't matter what it is. My team just won the Super Bowl. I just had my favorite dinner. But I am mad. What are you mad for? Let's talk about it. Let's dig into that. So a lot of people think of like anger or being like irritated because of something small. You want to dig into that if something is, they're always in whatever this mood is, right? We want to talk about it and figure out what's going on. Impulsivity was one of the ones that are up there. They're shopping all the time. Okay, I get it. You like to shop. I love TJ Maxx, but I know my limit, right? So if we're just shopping all the time or just doing really impulsive things that they haven't been done before, those are some things you want to look into. So now that we've gone over a couple of key suicide prevention efforts, talked about the warning signs, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do. So watching for those warning signs, right? How a person talks, how they behave, and their mood. Remember, they can be subtle or they can be very, very out there in the open for you to see, right? So what can you do? So let's save lives. So LETS is an acronym. It stands for listen, empathy, trust, and support, right? So listen to their story, asking directly about suicide. It is okay to ask, right? Statistics show that just because you ask someone does not mean that it's going to put it in their head. Actually, the complete opposite. It might give you that window to open for them to talk about it because, again, you could be the only person who has asked. And it's like, hey, you're not doing anything crazy or stupid like thinking about killing yourself. Now you put that opinion, that negativity in their head, like they're not even the person I want to talk to because, haha, you're joking about it, or you've already given me that opinion that you think that it's wrong or whatever the case may be. We're asking, are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Has it ever gotten so hard that you've thought about taking your own life? Ask them directly. I'm not asking you, are you thinking about harming yourself? Because, again, what did I say earlier? Just because I'm thinking about harming myself does not mean that I'm thinking about taking my life. It is okay to ask them directly. I will tell you this. If you're going to ask that question, you better be ready for the answer. I've been doing this a while, and I'll tell you honestly, in the back of my mind, I'm like, Lord Jesus, please let them say no. I've gotten people to say no, but my mother intuition, my mother gut, all the things, it's like, I'm going to dig into this because I feel that something is off. And you will get people that say no. But again, if you're going to be that bold and you want to be that person and you ask that question, you better be ready for the answer, right? And when they give you the answer, what is, do you have a plan? Have you thought about how you're going to do it? That's a whole nother ball game to tackle, right? Figuring out how we're going to help that person. Again, that's where we talk about the time that goes into disarming whatever they're thinking about. Because it could have been a 10-minute conversation. It could be a 10-hour conversation. But let's figure out what we can do or who we need to bring in to get this situation taken care of, right? So reaching out with L.E.T.S, we're not trying to fix it, like I mentioned earlier. I'm not here to diagnose you. I'm not here to treat it. I'm not here to fix whatever you got going on. If you're $1 million in debt, I'm definitely not the person to help you. I don't have that money. I can't give you that money, right? I can get you a financial advisor, right? I can direct you into those people, convincing them that their life is worth living. One of my colleagues was like, when he was going through his, mental health crisis, people would say, oh, you got your kids, live for your kids, live for your kids. He said, Kionti, they had no idea that it was because of my kids that I was thinking about taking my own life. So we don't want to put that on there. You have so many things to live for. Your job is great. You have this, you make this amount of money. Robin Williams, Kate Spade, top of their game, right? Anthony Bourdain. The list goes on, right? Doesn't matter how much money you make. Doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. Doesn't matter the color of your skin. If you got polka dots and you ride zebras, it does not matter, right? Minimizing or invalidating their feelings, right? Oh, you'll be all right. I got through it. Just because you got through it doesn't mean I can't, right? Or how you got through it doesn't mean that's going to work for me, right? Helpful. Talk to the person in private. If they're talking to you, pull them to the side. We don't need everybody to know what's going on or what you're talking about. Listen to what's going on. If you're starting the conversation, I would hope that you're caring. You're giving them that empathy, right? Oh, you're all right. All right, see you tomorrow. Why'd you even start the conversation if you weren't going to take the time to actually listen to their story, right? Ask directly about suicidal thoughts. Encourage them to seek help and staying calm. It's hard. I tell you, there's a little person that dances around in my head all day long, like, what are you going to say next? What are you going to do? Who can you refer them to? All the things, right? That goes to Carly's poster over here about ADHD. I saw you, Carly, wherever you are. Right? There you are. But, that's a thing. It's dancing. What do I say next? Oh, my gosh, what if I say the wrong thing and I'm not their person? But I always ask, is there somebody else that you trust that we can bring into this conversation? Because, again, I might not be their person. I could have asked. Assadi, Dr. Assadi know the same things, right? But he might be their person. I might be like, can we bring somebody else in? Are you comfortable with me bringing Dr. Assadi in because he can, right? It may be a man that wants a man, right? You have to know where you begin and where you end at, because I can only go so far because I'm not a therapist, right? I have to pass that person on. But I also want to give them that permission or let them control the situation in the aspect of let me choose who I want to bring into this. Because I might be like, let's bring your mom in. They're like, I don't even like her. We don't even talk, or whatever the situation may be. So just always letting them feel like they're a part of the plan. How to reach out. The examples that they give in here crack me up, because how I talk to a stranger is completely different. How I talk to Uncle Joe, right? I can be like, Uncle Joe, get your behind up and let's go. Ain't nobody got time for this, right? Somebody else that I don't know, I'm gonna be like, hey, let's figure this out. And it's not that my care is different, it's how personal I am with that person. Sometimes you can be too close to a situation. I do need to bring somebody else in because I might be too close to Uncle Joe, right? Or I might be too close to my friend. But that, you don't seem like yourself. Is everything okay? It's not something I'm going to say to my friends. The conversation, they give great examples, but this one on here, you good? I probably would say that to a high school kid because that's how they talk to each other, right? So I'm going to put myself on the level of how they talk. You good? What can I do? What's up, right? Where if I'm talking to somebody else, I may be like, how are you doing today? Let's figure this out, right? So you have to talk the lingo, right? It's just like we have a construction presentation that we do. We have a veterans presentation. I'm not a veteran, right? I have plenty of veterans in my family, military brat, but I don't talk that lingo. I learned a lot teaching at the Jacksonville Air Force Base the other day. I'm like, elemento, PQ, just tell me what it is, right? Because they got their own lingo. But I have to be able to talk their language in some aspect because I do want them to know that I care, and I'm really, really trying, right? So however that conversation looks for you, it's fine, right? Asking, again, ask what the stressor is, right? It's okay to have that conversation. Asking about if they're thinking about ending their life, right? If they do, what are the methods? How can we fix this, right? If you tell me that at home you got some pills or you got whatever, can we get somebody to get those, right? So just having those conversations with them. Finding the right person for them, having that empathy, that care, and that compassion, and finding the correct resources all the time. Want to make sure we're getting those resources in if we're asking them. Going back to trusting your instincts. You may have somebody that says no, but trust your gut. You'll know, especially if it's somebody that you know, if something is off. Making the home safer, removing scarves, belt cords from easy access if they tell you that whatever their means are, right? I have a firearm at home. Let's lock it up. Give me the key to the safe. Can we remove it, right? So whatever you need to do to keep them safe and to keep their home safe. If you think someone might have an attempt soon, you want to stay with them wherever you are, right? Figuring out the ways, help them secure the lethal means, escort them to wherever they need to go, call a mobile crisis hotline. I think Little Rock and Conway, I know for sure, have mobile crisis centers here. So if the police gets called out or something, they're like, it's not, we really didn't need the police. And the mobile crisis people come out, they're trained in like suicide prevention and how to handle mental health crises. So we do acknowledge that there is an increased risk of death for Black people experiencing a mental health crisis when calling 911. Sometimes 911 isn't the person to call, regardless of what your race is. Doesn't matter. Sometimes their first instincts to be like, again, crazy Joe over here acting crazy. I need to pull out my weapon. No, you don't. Uncle Joe is having a mental health crisis. He needs help, right? And he don't need all that. Maybe his firearm is his safety thing. He's not shooting you with it, but we need to find out how to get it from him and have that conversation. And I will be honest with you, I have trained more first responders in this job than I ever thought I would have to, because they will tell you, we're not trained in this. We get like this little portion of it, and that it could be different across the board, but the people I have trained have been like, we didn't even know this was a thing. So just having that education as well. If you guys want to, you can take a picture of this as well. These are different resources that we use. 988, you can call and text now. The 741 is another crisis text line. 988, their texting is still kind of new. They're getting some ticks and talks out of it. So if you want quicker texting response, then the 741 is going to be quicker to respond in text messaging. But the 988 is really good if you're calling in. You no longer can press 3 for LGBTQ. I need to take that out. They removed that. Not us. Trevor Project for the LGBTQ youth. And then the trans line, if they are trans, other trans people are trained, they're mental health therapists, counselors, or whatever, they're trans themselves, so they'll get a trans person on the other line that can relate to them, which I think is awesome. We can create a culture that's smart about mental health and suicide prevention. It's about working together, right? So I mentioned to you guys earlier about all the different things that we can do. Join your local chapter. That's us. That's me. If you need information about that, let me know. There's more information over there. Become an advocate. Attend a training. Become a volunteer. That's all the things too. Like I said in the beginning, any presentation that I give, you guys can be trained in it. Obviously, this one's specifically for African, not specifically, but the information in here is for African American. We want you to be African American to present this, right? We have one for Latinx. We have one in Spanish that you can teach in Spanish. I actually sat through that training when I first started, so I'm trained to give it in Spanish because I was too afraid to get out of the Zoom. It was like 6 of us, so I sat in there. But I'm trained to give it in Spanish, but don't ask me to. You can sponsor an event. You can give a gift for a nonprofit organization. It's a global organization. There's an AFSP in every state. We even have it in Puerto Rico. Engage in our social media. We have social media as well, but anything that we do, guys, all of our information is on afsp.org. Obviously, you can click on there, go to Arkansas specifically. You'll see my face, Jacqueline's face on there, and any questions that you guys have on there or need. I don't know why that says Virginia at the bottom of that either. That needs to be updated, so we'll fix that. We always need your feedback, your opinion. Let me know if this presentation is too long, if it's too short, if we need to add, if we need to take away, if we need to adjust, all the things. So the feedback is anonymous, so I'm going to click over to this next one. If you guys want to pull your phones out, if you guys want to type in that website at the bottom, the afsp.org/, LSL survey. If you guys want to do that survey for me, I'll leave that up for a couple seconds, or minutes, whatever we need. Other than that, like I said, we're across the board, social media. If you guys have any questions, if you guys need anything, I will talk y'all's head off because I love what I do. It is my passion, is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And if y'all need anything, have any questions, I am here. Dr. Assadi is here. And that pretty much wraps it up for me. So thank you guys for having us. If anybody has any questions before, by all means, we'll be over to the side. But thank you so much for having us, and I appreciate your time and patience.